Hi, welcome to Tag Arcade. And in this video, we're going to look at how to get rid of application.loadLevel string is obsolete. Use SceneManager.LoadScene. So what this means is that application.loadLevel is going to stop working, probably not now, but in the next few versions of Unity. So instead of using that, we want to use the SceneManager.LoadScene instead. So I'm going to bring up a brand new project to show you how to get rid of it. So this tutorial or this tip video is for absolute beginners. So if you just want to learn how to get rid of that error message, you could go ahead and forward the video to the appropriate section. So if you look at the description, I'm going to tell you how far to forward it into the video so that you can just fix the solution. But for everyone else, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what application.loadLevel is and also how to switch between two scenes. So the easiest way to find out what an application is going to help and going to scripting reference. It's going to bring up your scripting reference right here. And on the top right hand corner is a search script or search scripting. So if you go to or type in application.loadLevel, or I'm just going to click that since I did the search before, and go to application.loadLevel, you will see what it does. It pretty much helps you load between two scenes. And then, and even here in the manual, in the documentation, it's going to be obsolete soon. So, if you want to find out what SceneManager.LoadScene is, just paste it up here to the search box, do another search. Here's SceneManager.LoadScene. And you see this is going to be the replacement function. So first, in order to use the function, we're going to do two things here. We are going to create two scenes, scene 1 and scene 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two UI elements. One is a text that tells you I am on scene 1 or I'm on scene 2, and a button to switch between the two scenes. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the first one. So what I like to do is just do save as, just so we have a name for the scene. So I'm just going to call this simple enough, scene 1. So we got our first scene. So for this one, I actually don't want to do a skybox. I just want to keep it simple. So just black in color. So let's go ahead and create a new UI element. Let's go ahead and create a text box. And in the text box, I'm just going to say scene 1. Okay. If I could spell scene 1, that is. And then the next one that I said I was going to do is going to create a UI button. And this button is going to say, not button, but switch scenes. Okay. And now let's find out where our text is. So let's go swing the camera around, find our text in here. It's all the way down here, so let's bring it up so that we can see which scene we're on. And let's change it to a nice white so that we can see what it is. So scene 1, switch scenes. Perfect. File save. Okay. So now what we're going to do is let's change this to scene 2. And do file, save as, scene 2. Hit save. So let's just make sure that both scene 1 and scene 2 say the appropriate names. So let's double click on scene 1, it says scene 1. Let's double click on scene 2, it says scene 2. Wonderful. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is create a script so that we could switch between the two scenes. So I'm going to do create a C# script. So let's go switch scene. Okay. So in order for a scene to work, or in order to call this script, we actually have to add this to a game object. So I'm just going to create a new game object here. I'm just going to say controller, because this script is going to control how this button behaves. So let's take our script, let's attach it to my controller. Okay, can't add script components, switch scenes because the script class cannot be found. Okay, so why did that happen? Well, it looks like with C# or with any scripting, I have a space. It, yeah, Unity does not like spaces. Let's go ahead and get rid of that space. I'm gonna try it again. Let's go ahead and attach the switch scene function to the controller. So now if you click on controller, our switch scene is here. So let's double click on switch scenes to go ahead and open the script. Or, yeah, create our script. So it's going to open in a few minutes. So let's get rid of all this because we really don't need anything here. So we're just going to go void switch or yeah, switch scenes. Okay. So for all the beginners, switch scene is a name, and it could be pretty much named anything you want. So it could be switch scenes, or you could do my switch scenes. So you can just give it a name of whatever scenes you want. And in order to switch our scenes, we got to tell this function which scene we want to load next. So we're going to take in a variable called string, which is a line of text that tells us which scene to load. And we'll say scene to load. So I want to call it scene to load. But like I said, just like my switch scenes, you can name it whatever you want. Scene to load, or this variable here, could be anything you want. So if you want, you could even do my scene to load. Okay, so once we do that, let's go ahead and just do application.load_scene or load level, my scene to load. Okay, so if you look at this, I am typing this really fast. So how am I doing it? Well, all you have to do is, as you type in like the first few letters, this little hint box should pop up. So to automatically fill in the rest of it, just hit the tab key, and everything else will get filled in for you really quickly. So there we go. That's our function. Gonna hit save. Let's go back. So right here we have our scene, and we're gonna tell our button to use this function. So how do we do that? Let's go ahead and click on that button. Let's go ahead and add a function so that when you click on it, it does something. So we're going to take our controller, so click, hold, and drag it to here. So let's go ahead and go to access our function, which is my switch scene. So if you look at my switch scene, if you look at switch scenes, my switch scene is not even listed in here. So why is that? Well, by default, when you create a function, it's private. So what does private mean? That means no other object that is allowed to see this function except for the class you're working with. So in order to make it accessible within Unity or within other functions, you have to type in public. You have to make it public or publicly known to everything. So once we make it public, we hit save with this little nice little save button top here, and go into here. Let's go ahead and switch scenes, and now my switch scenes is available. So I'm just gonna type in scene 1. Actually no. Let's see. So I look at the top to see which scene I'm in. I'm in scene 2. So yeah, if I'm in scene 2, I want this to load scene 1. So that is correct. And I'm gonna hit file, save. So since I'm in scene 2, I'm gonna go back to scene 1. Scene 1. So let's do the same thing over again. Let's create an empty game object. Let's call it the controller. Let's go back to our button and attach that function to it. Okay, so first I gotta add something. Add a functionality, I should say. It's from the controller, and my controller doesn't have my script yet. Okay. So another way to add a script is I could drag it to here and add the script, or I could add component and find my script too. Switch scenes. Okay, either way. So now let's go back to our button. Switch scene is attached to it. Let's go my switch scenes. Go scene to. Okay. Hit file. save scene. So let's test it to see if it works. So in scene 1, play. Switch scenes. Okay, we get an error message. Scene 2, -1, cannot be loaded because it has not been added to the build settings. Okay, so within Unity, in order to switch between scenes, you have to tell the Unity game engine which scenes it needs to be able to switch to, or else you're going to get an error message. So to do that, you go to File and Build Settings. Within Build Settings, you could tell Unity which scenes to load in. The reason why this is the case is because you can have multiple scenes. You could have like testing scenes, prototyping scenes, and you don't want it to be built when you release your game. So you could have like say 5 or 6 testing scenes to like play around with scripts or flush out like one function and just not have to delete that and just sort of leave it in. So that's why. Let's go ahead and close that. Let's hit play. And let's go ahead and switch between the scenes. So if I click the button, you'll see the name switches from scene 1 to scene 2. So that function is indeed working. So if we go back into here, it's going to tell us that, yeah, this function is obsolete. So how do we fix it? Well, let's go ahead and use this new one, SceneManager.LoadScene. So we'll go and say SceneManager.LoadScene. Let's see, so check the spelling, SceneManager.LoadScene. Okay, the spelling is correct. You go down here. Yeah, Unity doesn't know what Scene Manager is. Well, that's kind of funny because Unity just told me don't use Application.LoadLevel, just use Scene Manager instead, but it doesn't know what it is. So how do we get Unity, or in this case Visual Studio, to recognize this function? Well, the easiest way to find that is to go back into your Unity script. So here's the Unity script and the documentation. That's what I meant, not Unity script, but go into Unity documentation and see what is exactly Scene Manager. Well, Scene Manager is all these things, but the most important thing is it tells us which class this function is in. It is in Unity Engine Scene Management. Let's go ahead and copy this directly out of here. And we need to add that just above the public class. So you could put it at the bottom here, but I personally like to use it right in the middle, right after Unity Engine. So I'm going to do Control V to paste it in, delete that. And now there's no more red underline, no more error message. And you're going to hit save. So let's go ahead and, why did this pop up all of a sudden? Okay. And yeah, so sort of weird that that's happening in the middle of here. So got it? Okay. So let's go ahead and play, switch scenes, and yep, that's how you fix it. No error message, everything works. And if I go into here, yep, I am definitely using SceneManager.LoadScene. So there you have it. That's how you use SceneManager.LoadScene. If you like what you see, definitely go ahead and like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, have fun, keep on coding, and yeah, enjoy.